Why can't I get these things even? Okay, which... So that one goes there. It's hard. This is hard. Hey everybody, these are Rollei 35 cameras. They are gorgeous. In my opinion, these are the most elegant 35mm cameras ever made. Today I want to show you up close the different features and how you use them, and we'll take one out for a spin and I'll show you the photos and tell you what I think about them. They're a whole lot of fun. Let's get to it. Oh, and by the way, why do I have two of them? Well, the answer to that question is pretty simple. Several months ago, I was looking for a Rollei 35 just because I think they are beautiful cameras. And I found this one. This is a German-made one of the original Rolleis, and it was used once by the original owner. He shot half a roll and put it away for the rest of his life. And I bought it from an estate seller. It was in great condition. I fixed up the shutter speeds. I did another video about that at one point. It was in perfect shape. I shot a roll. I was so happy. And then I went to shoot a roll the next week, and I got home and all the pictures were black. What the heck? It was working perfect. What did I do to it? It turns out that it had some serious damage inside, possibly from the original owner, when it was closed without cocking the shutter, which is verboten with these cameras. So I knew I was going to have to do some serious surgery to unbend the pieces that were all bent up. And I didn't want to learn how to do that on my beautiful, pristine, unscratched, perfect Rollei 35. So I wanted to buy a junk camera that I could take apart and learn how to do surgery on before I messed up the pristine one. And I searched on eBay and I found a really cheap one, junk for parts only, and that was this one. And the guy who sold it to me played a dirty trick. When it arrived, and I said, oh, just how bad is this thing? And I went to test it. It was perfect. Everything on this camera worked perfect. Had to fix up the low-end shutter speeds, but that's about it. This camera is perfect. It's got a couple dents on it, but a lot of these do. People dropped them a lot. So here I have a perfectly good Rollei 35T, and I was still sitting there with this Rollei 35 that needed surgery. Eventually, I did all that surgery, made a video about it last week, and now I have two of them. They both work great. Today, I'm going to show you these cameras up close, tell you about, what are you doing? What are you tell you all about their features, and then we're going to take it out shooting, and I'll show you the photos. I'll tell you what I think about them in the end. Let's get to it. Let me give you a quick flyby of the Rollei 35T's controls. On the front, you'll see the sensor for the light meter, the viewfinder. There's two wheels with inner wheels, and there's the lens with a focus ring. The wheels are set up so that you have your aperture on one side, shutter speed on the other. Inside the aperture wheel, there is a little clicky thing for setting your ISO. And inside the shutter speed wheel, there's a little, it's just a slidey thing for saying what kind of film you have loaded. This does nothing. It's just for your memory. When we hold the camera in shooting position, pull the lens out, twist it clockwise, we can see the controls we normally would be using. On our right, as we're holding the camera, there's a little metal thing that you have to squeeze when you turn the aperture control. And the shutter control just has clicks, nothing more. You look down at the light meter and you match the ring and the needle. In fact, they are matched. See, just do like that. Match the ring with the needle with this little cell pointing to the light, and make sure you're not blocking that with your finger. This is all you have for focusing. Just the focus ring with the numbers that are printed on it. On models that were shipped to the United States, you'll see feet on top, meters on the bottom, and then others will say meters on top, feet on the bottom. There's the helpful depth of field scale here. You absolutely need that because we're going to be zone focusing. You don't have anything other than guessing for your focus, so you're going to be setting one of your numbers somewhere on this depth of field scale based on the aperture you've chosen. Right side, there is a wrist strap, which can be removed. Left side, there's nothing. On the back, we have our viewfinder. It's a plain viewfinder with the most basic of parallax lines in there. That's it. There's a little lever that releases the sprocket. It lets it freewheel when you're rewinding. This is your rewind lever. Flip like that. There's a little screw here that all that is a screw that holds the camera together. There's nothing under that. On the top, we have our cocking lever. We have this little button that allows you to shut the lens, and we have the shutter release. And of course, the light meter, like I mentioned before. The golden rule with this camera is never, ever, ever shut the lens without cocking the camera. It's already cocked. I can shut the lens. Press the button, click, slide it in. If we look on the bottom, we see controls that have no business being on the bottom of a camera. There's our hot shoe. If you ever attach a flash to a Rollei 35, turn the camera upside down and shoot that way. Never take somebody's photo with a flash dangling off the bottom. You'll make them look like Frankenstein. It's definitely not flattering. This is the lever you use to remove the back of the camera when you're changing film. This is the rewind lever. Flips up, engages, flips down. This is your frame counter. Again, no business being on the bottom of the camera. And there is your 1/4-20 screw for mounting this on a tripod. If you're lucky enough to have one of these cameras with a fully functional light meter, like that, then you need to know about the batteries. This is where the battery is located. And that's the battery cover where my finger is, right there. Use a small coin. And take it out. This is the battery cover, and when you're looking to buy one of these, look at the battery cover and look inside the battery compartment, because if you leave a battery in there, it'll leak and the camera will be trashed. The original battery in the Rollei 35, this PX625, that is one of those mercury batteries you can't get anymore because, well, they're mercury. So there's a few fixes for that, and this is the one I like. You buy one of these adapters. This one came with the camera. It's somewhere $20, $30, something like that. I don't know. And it's got something in there like a voltage regulator or a diode or something that will take a regular hearing aid battery and drop the voltage just enough so that the light meter works perfectly. The narrow part where you can't see the button cell, has a little plus engraved on it, and that faces you when you put it in the battery compartment. You want to look inside there and inspect and make sure there's no crusty stuff. That's going to be the failure point of most Rollei 35s. And put your battery sandwich inside. And screw in the cover. And there you see the light meter is fully functional. There are other batteries you can use. There's a zinc air battery, which once you peel the little sticker off of it, it'll last for about a month. And so you'll be replacing them regularly, but those work. And you can actually just use the battery that'll fit in there except it's going to have the wrong voltage and the light meter is going to show a wrong value. It's possible to calibrate that light meter, but that's, to me, a little bit more of a risky solution. I would go with a little adapter if you've got one of these cameras. So this is what it looks like when it's in its case. And this is the camera is quirky even in its case. You see what they did is they put a little grommet here and they feed the wrist strap through the grommet. It just makes it strange. The original ones came with a nice leather case like this, and then as the years went on they changed to not leather, but they're all about the same. And so you unzip it like so, and notice again the wrist strap goes through that grommet, and I don't know, maybe you're supposed to use it like this. Doesn't seem like the way I want to use it. So you take that off and you're left with this heavy little brick of a camera. This camera is so tiny. I've got, look at this. Let me grab the other one just so you can see. They're tiny, little itty bitty things. They are about the size of a fat pack of cigarettes. And I think so. I haven't held a pack of cigarettes this close since I was unwrapping my mom's Pall Malls for her when I was a kid. But I think that's about the size of this. You see? Very tiny. It weighs quite a bit, surprisingly. This little brick weighs 325 grams or so. And that means, so let's compare it to, this is my Pentax 17. See the size difference. This guy, 325 grams. That is one Pentax 17 plus 3 Sharpies. So it's a heavy little thing, all compressed in this little tiny block of metal. And you can understand why most of the ones you see on eBay have little dings and dents, because people drop them. So if you ever find one that has no dings and dents, snap it up. It's a rare bird indeed. So let's load the Rollei 35T camera. First thing you want to do is probably pull out the lens, because we're going to have to shoot blank frames, and you can't do that with the lens collapsed, and you don't want to be trying to go through these motions while you have the back open and everything. So let's just pull the lens out, give it a clockwise twist until you hear it click. You know at this point that the camera is cocked and ready, because you always shut it cocked. So you can press the shutter and it'll fire. Now we go and we look on the bottom, and there's a little latch. You flip that latch up. Now we slide the camera back off. This works just like rangefinders from the mid-century, where the whole back slides off. And I found that if I just, well, this camera comes off easily, but if it's a little snug, just brace your thumb against the lens or against some other part of the camera and slide right off, just like that. Set it aside somewhere where you're not going to sit on it or drop it or smash it or anything else. Flip the pressure plate down. And on the left side, you're going to see this take-up reel, which is on the opposite side from most cameras. The film is going from right to left. And in fact, your pictures are all going to be upside down when you develop them for that reason. So there's a little thumb wheel that you can use. And there's a little arrow that shows which way to turn this. We want to make sure that this release lever here, this rewind release lever, is in the down position. That way the sprocket isn't freewheeling, because we're going to actually be loading film. So I'm going to take my roll of junk film and I'm going to put the tip inside where those 4 arrows are, put it in, and now we're going to use the thumb wheel to load it. And you see how it's wrapping the film around this little metal piece? It gives you a very firm, solid connection. Now just run the film over the sprocket and insert the film canister into the right side of the camera and flip up the pressure plate. Now let's close it up. Make sure the side rails align with these little bent-in pieces. Gently, and everything should just click in place and then flip this little lever down. Now shoot 2 blank frames. The first one doesn't count because that was already cocked. So cock it, shoot, cock it, shoot, and then the next frame is going to be for real. You can check and see if you're actually advancing by looking at this little thing by my thumbnail and see that this little part is spinning. It's not as reliable as on some cameras just because of the way this works. That will eventually start spinning if you have no more slack in the canister film. I don't bother looking at the frame counter. Again, just 2 blank frames. Now let's close the camera up. Remember, always cock the shutter. This one's for real. Before you unlock and close the lens. Otherwise you will damage the camera. There, it's all loaded. Now let's shoot a few frames. And we have to do that by take the lens out, shoot. There we go. And say we're cocking it and it stops right there. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to stop in the middle. You're not going to get a full frame cock. It's always going to stop somewhere in the middle. So now you can't close the camera because you can't get the shutter cocked completely to allow you to safely close it. So you're stuck with the camera in this position. You have to unload it or put it in your bag like this, but with the lens out, I would say just find a dimly lit area and unload the camera. The way we do that is we flip this little lever up. That's going to allow the sprocket to freewheel. Now, go to the rewind lever on the bottom, and you'll notice that it has to flip into these little notches, and then you just follow the arrow. You'll feel it when it breaks loose. Right there. I didn't shoot that many frames. And so if you want to leave the tongue out, just stop right then. Now, flip the rewind lever down. Open the latch. Slide the back of the camera off. Put it somewhere safe. Open the pressure plate. And take out your film. Close the pressure plate. Put the camera back in place. Latch it. Now, fully cock the shutter and close the camera. Imagine I want to take a picture of this graffiti. Let me show you the manual of arms of how you use this little camera. Take it out of its case. Take off the lens cap. Don't lose that. Pull out the lens. Give it a short turn to the right, and the camera's ready to go. And now we have a bicyclist who decided to come here just at this moment. Now that the bicyclist has moved on, so now we have to make the adjustments on the camera. Figure out how far this wall is from me. I could come back here and go 3 giant steps. 1, 2, 3. And that gives me 10 feet. I then go here, set my focus to 10 feet. Now, aim the camera. Adjust the aperture to what I want. Shutter speed. Bring it to my eye. And shoot. Now where we start running into trouble is if we want to get close. But that's kind of more of the sweet spots for a wide angle lens, to make something that's really close to you look huge and a thing that's far away from you look small. So we're going to do that. Problem is, I need to estimate how far this is away from me. So right now it's 3 feet, nose to tip of my arm. And I'm not that good at guessing, so maybe I'll maybe go 6 feet, 2 paces. 1, 2. So we're 6 feet away from there. And I can set that on the camera. We'll set these dials. Looks like everything's good. Maybe we'll do this way. Yeah, that's cool. Another way I could get the distance right is using this little gadget, which it's good if you want to be really precise. This is one of those little measuring things that you use. It's got a little laser beam, and you point it at something and it'll tell you 4.5 feet. I use this if I really want to get precise, but this little camera is not meant for that kind of work. If you want to do macro work, use another camera. If you want to do something kind of fun, just get back, set it on infinity, or better yet, get it at like f16 and put the infinity mark all the way over on the 16 on the right side at the depth of field. Now everything's going to be in focus and you're good to go. Now I'm going to step back knowing that everything from infinity on back to, about 6 feet is going to be in focus. And I can get this all, there we go, that looks great. Let me, of course, get my exposure right. Looking good. A Rollei 35 is the kind of camera you go out and shoot with because you want the Rollei 35 experience. It's a fun camera to put on your shelf and every once in a while take it out and just enjoy that process where you take the lens out and you click it in place, you guess at your distance and you dial it in. Use these little dials, look at the meter, get everything just right, make sure you didn't forget anything, and then, it's just a lot of fun. But you're going to be bonding with your camera. It's not something where you're going to take this out at a party or something like that and start snapping pictures and have them all come out good. It's you got to want to use this. Other thing is, it is really an outdoor camera because of the zone focus system. This will be great for like street photography. Set it up with a very small aperture and put your focus at something where you get a good swath in focus and just start shooting. Be very careful about the fact that anytime you put this in your pocket or in your bag or whatever, you're going to move the lens. This is very easy to turn and it's just gonna be out of focus. Other issues I have with this, you're gonna forget something just because we're not used to having to set everything. So it's just, if you don't use it all the time, you're gonna forget, oh, I gotta do the focus again. Oh, I've gotta do this. Oh, I've gotta do. So it's just trouble waiting to happen. Be expecting a lot of blurry pictures when you first start using one of these. When you get past all that, it's a great camera. The 40mm lens, I don't know if I'm a fan or not. That's not quite a normal lens, but it's not quite a wide angle. It doesn't know what it wants to be. But I enjoyed my shots that I took with this, and I will use it many more times. I like putting it into, I really liked going around with a sport coat on and having this in my coat pocket and just take it out. It just looks so polished and posh. The lens mechanism, I'm not a fan of that because it just adds one other thing you have to do. It's in your pocket, you take it out. Oh, now I've got to take the lens out and click it in place. And don't forget so I don't mess it up. So it's just this whole thing. And they're making that Rollei 35 AF, which is a Rollei in name only. And it's just kind of, it's an homage. And I've got one on order. Someday it's going to arrive. They actually, I think they did the right thing. And by putting a lens that's a little bit shorter that has the same look, but you don't have to stow the lens and take it out. And, so that's going to be a nice feature of that camera. I'm looking forward to that. Things that work on this left-handed cocking lever, I thought that would be awkward. No, it isn't. When you're shooting with it, you shoot and then you just put your left hand up there and cock it. And it just feels like the most natural thing. Nothing weird about that at all. I like the viewfinder. It's just like a rangefinder camera where it just fits right in your right eye. Left eye people, well, you're going to put big nose prints on the back of your camera. It's going to feel weird when you're using it. But if you can tuck it into your right eye, man, what a fun camera to work with. You do that. It comes with a flash. I actually have a flash. I'm never going to use it. The flash goes on the bottom. Don't use it that way. You can turn the camera over if you put the flash on, and you can absolutely shoot this way. I love the dials. These two dials, the interlock between them, the way that they work, the fact that as you turn them, the little ring and the light meter's moving, and it moves depending on the exposure you set. It gets that exposure relationship in your brain a whole lot easier. This is the kind of thing where if it weren't for the fact that these cameras are so weird, I would say this mechanism would be a great one for people to learn manual photography on, because they're interrelated and you see the changes. As you're changing one, you see it affecting the other. Pretty neat. Very elegant way that they've handled adjusting that. And I'm looking forward again to see how the 35AF with the same front mount controls, whether they are as nice. I've heard rumors that they are not going to be as polished. One can hope. One other thing that bothers me about using this camera is the zone focus is very finicky and hard to get right. The zone focus on the Pentax 17 is, I don't know, I just look at the picture and it just seems to, for some reason, I can take a sharp picture with the Pentax 17 much easier than taking a sharp picture with one of these. And I actually kind of expected that, and I wasn't let down. It's kind of tricky. So here's a picture of some cat graffiti on a bridge, and I was afraid there was no way I was going to get this right. And I was trying to use my arm to measure it. I finally actually took out, I have this little laser tape measure thing that I carry with me, and I used that and I measured it precisely and dialed it in because I didn't want to miss that shot. So, and you can always do that. And in fact, that's what I do when I'm shooting with one of these. I carry that little laser rangefinder thing so that if I really want to take a shot, I can. Hey, one more thing, which is I'm not a fan of, and that is there is no macro or close-up. These go down to 1 meter or 3 feet. That's it. You're not going to focus any closer than that. And of course, that makes absolute sense because you have to guess, and you better be using a tape measure if you're trying to take a photo of something that close. But it's kind of sad that you can't get closer than that. Like again, I keep using the 17 as an example. This guy, there's a macro mode, which what you do is you simply take this wrist strap and you hold it in front, and that gives you your perfect measurement for the macro mode. And I wouldn't have minded if these lenses on these guys could have done kind of a macro mode like that, but that's not what they were designed to do. This camera was really meant to be an outdoors camera, and it does that in spades. You're going to get a chance. Add it to your collection. I wouldn't use it as a first camera or a second camera, but maybe a third. To be absolutely frank, if I wanted a camera that I was just going to use everywhere, that's more of a hands-on camera, but just for fun, I'm going to use this one, the Pentax 17. This camera, I love shooting with it. And even though it's got the same zone focusing, it's really good at the exposure. It's got the program modes. You really feel the lack of those things when you start using a little camera like this. It's Not really fair, though, to make comparisons between a camera made in 1969 and a camera made, this year. So just enjoy it for what it is. It is a piece of history. This was a really elegant, posh little camera for people to go on vacations with. And it has a following, and people love them just because they look so cool. And if you take this out and you're taking pictures with it, people are going to ask you about it. It's certainly a conversation starter. Now let's take a look at some of the photos I took with this. I've shot both black and white and color, though I mostly do black and white, but I threw some color shots in the fall leaves just to break up the monotony. And judge for yourself whether you like the look or not. That's all I got for now. Thank you for watching. Now go out and shoot a roll.